started yet?
Welcome. So glad that we've had this opportunity once again to worship, especially now that we're entering into the Advent season, where we start preparing our hearts for God. It seems like I started preparing, with Thanksgiving dinner. And actually, since we had Thanksgiving dinner here at the church last Sunday, we've been getting in that festive mood for a while. It's important at this time of the season that we remember that we're celebrating Jesus. Family's important. Getting nice gifts are important. All those things are important, and it's a way of celebrating. But let's not forget our Lord during this time.
Amen.
We are going to have worship on Christmas morning, the 25th. I think this is most important, and I think it's an extra special blessing that God has given us an opportunity to put Sunday and His birthday together. It's a tremendous gift. And I know God didn't really do that. Somebody out there with a mathematician figured out how to divide the year into days and hours and stuff. And because of that, every once in a while, Christmas falls on a Sunday. But this is the year that happens, and we will rejoice in it. We will, however, not be having Sunday school. Give you a little bit of extra time to open gifts so that the kids can play in the boxes and the wrapping, and all that stuff. But we are glad that you're here. We're glad that we are launching the Advent season. And so I do want to point out in your bulletins that we have a communication card for you to communicate with us what God is laying on your heart. There will be a time following the worship, following the message, where you can actually fill it out, but you can pull it out anytime God is speaking to you and you want to communicate that back to us. And now let's continue in our worship service as we go to the lighting of the first Advent candle.
We light the first candle of Advent wreath, which represents hope. Hope is the glimmer before the dawn, the tiny flicker of light at the end of the dark tunnel. God's promise was a Messiah who would come in dark times as a hope for all. Jesus, the Messiah, did come, and the salvation He brought was much greater than anything anyone could have imagined. Jesus, the light of the world, gives us hope. How will you live and share this hope with others this Advent season? Isaiah 9:2 reads, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned."
Would you stand with me as we join together once again?
Thy
Our message this morning comes from Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. He will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. One of my favorite stories of this time of year is the best Christmas pageant ever. And it's about a big church having a Christmas pageant, and for some reason, the pageant director allows a bunch of children to come and be a part of it. Now, these are special children because they're not church children. They're kind of rowdy, they don't know how to behave in church, and they have been allowed to be a part of the Christmas pageant. In fact, there was going to be a live baby infant that was going to be used for Jesus. And when they found out that Imogene was going to be married, well, the woman withdrew her infant child lest it be kidnapped or something terrible happened to it. But it's a wonderful story of redemption, as we really want to hear on Christmas. But when Imogene heard that his name will be Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, she said, he will never get out of the first grade if he's got to write all that. You know, parents agonize over what to name their child. You know, you try to find a name that's not going to rhyme with anything bad, or that the initials don't spell out anything bad. You know, I remember my neighbors in seminary had a little girl named Cynthia, and her friend, I guess an Imogene type of character, would call her Sin. Imagine that. A seminary student's daughter being called Sin by another seminary student's daughter. She hated that. I thought it was kind of cute. You know, short for Cynthia. I thought of it as CYN. But you don't want that to happen, so you agonize and you try to decide what you want to bring special meaning. And you know, it is true that names mean something. And we name our children, we're putting our hopes and our dreams into this child. You know, Jesus' names, of course, we know are exalted titles. They're meant to describe to us the one who was coming to save the world from sin. And so first he is called a Wonderful Counselor. You know, we seek a counselor when we're in despair, when we're ignorant, when we're walking in darkness. We need information. You know, there's a lot of lawyer jokes. I can sit here and tell them to you for the next 20 minutes. And we'd laugh and we'd like that. But, boy, there's no joke when you need a lawyer. And the first thing you do is you go find that lawyer. And I know what lawyer I'm going to look for. I know all the names, but I only remember one phone number. So I'll call the force. Hopefully I'll never have to do that. But, you know, I remember there was a time where Jonathan and I were stumbling in darkness. Somebody had offered us that tower out there, that cell phone tower, and I got all kinds of advice. We need to get $1 million a day for that. That's how much they pay. And they wanted to pay us, I don't know, $500 a month maybe. You know, that's a lot of money, but not compared to $1 million a day, right? So we had to go find a Wonderful Counselor, which we did. He's a great lawyer. He didn't know anything, but he knew who to ask. And he got us an agent, and we got twice as much. We didn't get the $1 million a day. You probably know that by now. But we did get more than we're going to get, and we like that. We want someone who knows what they're doing. And actually, the guy we got was an agent. He used to be a salesman, and he realized that these cell phone things are one-sided, that there's nobody representing the buyer. And the buyers tend to be churches. I kind of figured out why. Because churches don't know anything. They're not in business, so they give away stuff cheap. But we got, he was an agent who represented, he did us well. We got a Wonderful Counselor. You know, we wonderful counselors sometimes are vocational or academic counselors. You know, you go to see the vocational counselor at your high school, and he tells you, he gives you all these brochures on joining the Army or being a plumber. You know, there's a hint right there. If you do make it to college, you get an academic counselor who's going to tell you what classes to take and what order to take them in. Social workers are counselors that help guide you through the troubled times of your life sometimes. And pastors are counselors as well. You come to a pastor for spiritual guidance and answers to life's questions. A counselor is wonderful if he listens with compassion. We got to be slow to give advice. You know, imagine if you went to a lawyer and before you even open your mouth and told you what you need to do. First you got to listen. In fact, if you're going to be a spiritual counselor, you need to listen a whole lot more and be very careful about giving anybody advice. Listening is a primary skill that's taught to counselors. You practice it back and forth. In fact, our deacons who were trained to be Stephen ministers, they were really surprised. I'm pretty sure I was surprised at how much time we spend learning how to listen, reflecting on what the person is telling us, and practicing so hard to keep our mouths shut. That's the hardest thing in the world to keep. It's hard for me. I tell you, I know more about your problem than you do. I'm ready to tell you what to do before you walk in the doors. It is just so hard. Counselors that do that, however, are not wonderful. Remember, Jesus always stopped to listen, and he asked good questions. The disciples often wanted to chase people away, but Jesus wanted to listen to them. You know, one of the powerful things about peer counseling, groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, is that there's someone there. Well, everybody there has been where you are, and they're ready to listen to you. I find that the most fascinating thing about AA, and most of what I know, of course, about AA meetings is what I see on TV. But I know a lot of it by having been trained and studied and talked to people. Everybody, you know, who wants to speak gets a chance to speak. And everybody is supposed to listen. And one of the things that I've learned about peer counseling is that the first thing that we're told as we gather together is that we're not here to fix people. It's not my job to fix someone else. We just listen. And I got to tell you, when a counselor listens to you, you wind up fixing yourself. The healing comes from, especially in spiritual groups where we are centering around Jesus. The Holy Spirit is there to guide us and to speak to us. And he will. The counselor is wonderful if he helps you to see things in a new way. You know, I have trouble proofreading my own work. You know, if I made that mistake, I'm going to make it once, I'll probably make it again when I go read through it and miss the weird word I put in there, or misunderstood. A wonderful counselor gives us wise insights. The people in Jesus' day, the Pharisees in particular, had completely misunderstood the Sabbath. Rule after rule had been placed on the Sabbath, and Jesus told them very simply, the Sabbath was meant to serve humanity. It was not meant for humanity to serve the Sabbath. Simple words and simple insight, but he twisted completely what they were expecting. They expected Jesus to be a master, a warrior, who was going to come in with a sword. He was going to wipe out all the enemies and make Israel wonderful again. Is there something wrong there? Israel being wonderful again? Wasn't it God who was supposed to be wonderful? Wasn't Israel to serve God rather than God to serve Israel? And Jesus gave that insight about humility and the vision of a suffering servant. And how Israel was God's people to serve humanity and bring the good news, bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to the world, not to be served. The wonderful counselor gives insight. The wonderful counselor is loving, knows that sinners need redemption. Condemnation comes from God, and so does grace. It's not our place to either give grace or condemnation. Well, we can give grace. in the limited way that we can give it. And by limited is there are some people that are hard to love, and only through God's love can we love them. A wonderful counselor is compassionate. A wonderful counselor listens. A wonderful counselor gives the right word at the right time. A wonderful counselor confronts the truth, however. There is grace and truth. The rich young ruler came to Jesus. He had everything. He had religion. He had money. He had position. He was well thought of in the community. But he was empty inside. He lacked something. And Jesus pointed out that it was his money that was holding him down. His money, his position, all the things he had, which he believed brought God's favor or displayed God's favor to him, were the things that were holding him back. He said, give it all up and come follow me. The rich young ruler did not realize that his issue was materialism. And he walked away sad because, as empty as he was, he couldn't give up the things that were holding him back. The woman at the well was confronted with the truth about the fact that she had many husbands and the man she was with now was not her husband. Jesus confronted her with that truth. And she was surprised. She thought she kept it well hidden. Well, she probably didn't keep it well hidden, but certainly why would this stranger, a Jew, know anything about her or what's going on? But he did. He told her the truth. But the truth has to be given with a heavy dose of grace. There was a young Marine I know who heard the gospel. You know, it was in a ship in a berthing area, walls made of metal, everything echoes. It was at night when we're supposed to be sleeping, and some guy sharing the gospel with a sinner. We're all trying to sleep here. Can't salvation wait till tomorrow? Well, he just shared the gospel with the guy. The guy, I later found out that when he went to bed, let me backtrack a little bit. One guy was hearing the gospel, the other guy was overhearing it. He was laying in bed. He was like me trying to sleep, hearing all this gospel stuff. He said that night, all of his sins just kept washing over him. He kept remembering all the bad things he did. He wasn't an evil guy. He didn't murder anybody. He didn't sell drugs. He was a very healthy but rowdy Marine who had no consideration other than himself. And so he did the kind of things young Marines do. Don't use your imagination on that. Just leave it at that. And he said that the words that echoed in him were not the fact that he was a sinner, but that God loved him and God would forgive him. I got to tell you, the guy who shared the gospel that night was very annoying. He annoyed even the Christians. A boy, there was not a moment or a person that he would not share the gospel with. And I'll never forget him because others ridiculed him, but one young Marine heard the gospel and accepted it. And I don't know how many others accepted the gospel he shared with, but I know it was that one, and that one is enough. But he heard the word of grace. This young Marine, the other Marine, the Christian Marine, was a wonderful counselor without even knowing who he was touching. A wonderful counselor shares the gospel with people, brings them the truth. Counselor is wonderful if he expects responsibility from others. You know, a lot of counselors today, the professional type, the licensed professional counselors, sometimes they want to excuse people. They want to tell them they're okay. That you're okay the way you are. The Bible may say it's a sin, but I say you're okay. They blame things for their sins, their childhood, the way they were brought, or maybe there is an addiction, or maybe the environment that they were raised in caused them to be sinners. That's not a wonderful counselor. That's an enabler. Imagine that. A person who's trained not to enabling people by saying, you're okay just the way you are. God made you like that. Well, you know, there is some truth in that. God did make us and we do sin. Each and every one of us has a bent towards sin, and sometimes the sins we're bent towards are unique to us. They're sins different from other people. It doesn't make them right. And excusing someone's sin, that's not a wonderful counselor. That's the person who's going to make you feel good on the way to hell. There was a woman that was caught in adultery, and they were going to stone her to death. And apparently, rightfully so, she was an adulteress, and that was the law. And Jesus did not say to her, you know, it's not your fault. I know how things are. You know, you can't help yourself. Maybe that was the way you were brought up. Maybe it was your mom. Maybe your daddy didn't love you enough. He didn't say that. She knew she was a sinner. He didn't say she wasn't. He said, go and sin no more. Those are the words of a wonderful counselor. Now, there are many in the world today who don't believe in Jesus, but do believe that he was a wonderful counselor. They love the words he said. You know, the words written in red in the old King James Bibles, red letter editions. But Isaiah tells us he was also mighty God. Mighty God. And they draw the line there. But what does it mean to be mighty? You know, maybe we think in terms of heroic God. There was a Native American who had this vision, and in this vision he would dance, and the ancestors would, the ghosts of the ancestors would dance with him, and they would bring peace and harmony to the world. But there were some, and he was getting a big following, by the way. Lots of people were hearing him, lots of people were following him, lots of people were joining him in a dance. But there were some who wanted warfare. And so they took his vision and they said what was actually going to happen is all the dead warriors are going to rise and they're going to chase all the white men, all the Europeans out of the United States, and they would once again rule the world. You know, there's the Shiite Muslims, the ones that are in Iran. They also have a belief about a mighty God. They believe that there's a 12th Imam that's going to come up, the rightful ruler of Islam, a descendant of Muhammad, that he's going to rise up in the last days and bring a mighty army and we're going to wipe out the infidels. In fact, this is going to happen at a time when the Muslims are at their weakest and about to be destroyed. That there's going to be a great war and they're going to be about to be destroyed, and suddenly the 12th Imam comes. There are people who have visions of a God who's vengeful and going to destroy the enemies. That's one way of looking at might. Another way of looking at might we see in history is military power, where we strike out militarily and we are heroes from World War II and in more recent wars, but sometimes military power isn't enough. You know, Britain was much more powerful than the United States when we won our freedom. For some reason, America's military power was not enough to stop North Vietnam from taking over South Vietnam, or North Korea from, we stopped North Korea from taking South Korea, but they're still there. Britain was a tremendous power still when they lost India. Military might is not all that we think it is. Then there's financial power. You know, but economies collapse. In 1929, when the stock market collapsed, people didn't know what was going to happen, what was going to be, and there's some people who lost everything they had. They once thought they were rich, and now everything they had was paper, and it was disappeared, and they took their own lives. You know, cryptocurrency is something. I don't know what it is, but it's out there, and people think it's money. And maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I know some people went bankrupt recently because the emperor had no clothes. Sometimes power is political, but revolutions can be around the corner. the French Revolution brought down a mighty empire. Russia was in the middle of the First World War when they had a revolution, and then suddenly they're not part of the war anymore. But Jesus taught us that real power comes from love. Jesus is a creator of all the earth. He holds life in his hands, and he chooses to love us. He came to die so that our sins would be forgiven and we would have everlasting life, and an abundant one as well. That's what a hero is. That's a mighty God. And he's also called Everlasting Father. Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God. Everlasting Father. You know, there was a lot of uncertainty at the time that Jesus came, at the time that these words were written. The kingdom was divided. The Assyrian power to the north and the Egyptians to the south were all fighting over this land of Israel. There were revolutionaries operating in the land, trying to create Israel as a world power once again. Ultimately, the northern kingdom would fall, and all the Hebrew people there of Israel would be scattered. But you know, when Christ was born, there was still uncertainty. You know, the Babylonian captivity came, and all of Israel was wiped out. There was no more Israel. And yet one king, a secular king, not even a believer, allowed Israel to come back, rebuild Jerusalem. And Israel was at least a state, if not independent. But the Romans occupied it. And I tell you, you know, Israel was God's chosen people. They needed to be independent. They needed to serve God. But they needed to serve Rome now. And there was revolutionaries operating. Some people were okay with Rome ruling because they could still make money. They could still get married and have children. They could still do whatever they wanted pretty much as long as they obeyed Rome. Some wanted the yoke of Rome to be taken off, and they wanted Israel to be free and independent again. And ultimately, Jerusalem was destroyed because of the revolutionary fervor. Today we have uncertainty. There's a war in the Ukraine that threatens annihilation of the world. Biden told Putin that. China told Putin that. I think Putin understood that from the beginning. So there's uncertainty. We don't know how this is going to end. The country's divided. Our very nation divided. No matter who's president, half the people are going to be upset. And not just upset anymore. They're going to be enraged. And so there's talk of civil war. There's violence in our schools. When I was in elementary school, the biggest problem we had was that there was no air conditioning. It was beautiful. I know the architecture of my school. It had a hollow. It was built in a square with a hollow inside. Windows on either side so we could get a breeze. We didn't get a breeze all the time. But if we did, the windows were there. That was the biggest problem. You know, you could walk right into the school. There was no terrorism. I guess I went to school at a very good time because the people before me had to hide under their desks to get ready for a nuclear attack. I've seen pictures of that. Now we have to lock ourselves in a room because somebody of our own country will come in and shoot people. This is weird, folks. This is weird. Our government doesn't have an answer for that. They have a lot of rhetoric. The most recent shooting that's in my mind right now, I know we have them just about every day now, but somebody came in with a pistol and shot a bunch of people up. I think it was a Walmart. And the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, says we need to ban assault weapons, meaning rifles. That we need to ban rifles because somebody came in with a pistol and shot some people. And sometime around the same time, somebody stabbed a bunch of people. Stabbed with a knife. The president didn't come out. He wanted to, but I think he was stopped. He wanted to ban assault knives. I don't mean to be funny about this because this is terrible. This is very serious. No matter who gets killed, murder is murder. But I want to tell you right now that the problem has to do with Jesus and a lack of Jesus in people's hearts. And until we get that right, there's no ban that's going to work. That's why we need a Prince of Peace.
Amen.
We don't talk about this. I've seen a lot of, little displays of the birth of Jesus. But at Christmas time, nobody talks about the slaughter of the innocents. You remember that? Herod was afraid of revolution. He was told that the King of the Jews was born, and he killed all the children under 2. He had them killed. All the children under 2, the slaughter of the innocents. At Christmas time, we're singing Joy to the World, celebrating the Prince of Peace, and the children are being killed. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. But there's never been a period in our time when we have been without war. He taught us how to wage peace. How do we wage peace? Well, we turn the other cheek and we don't seek revenge. Revenge is mine, says the Lord. We were attacked on 9/11, and 3 targets were selected. 3 targets of might, of power. They successfully brought down the World Trade Center, the symbol of America's financial power. They hit the Pentagon, a symbol of America's military power. And they tried to hit the White House, America's political power. Or the Capitol, I don't know, they tried to hit one of them. And of course, I was as enraged as everybody here. In fact, I put on the uniform again. I had been out. I had already served time, not my time, but some time. And I was through. I remember when I got that DD-214, I took all my uniforms, took them to the military thrift shop so somebody else could use them. I wasn't going back there. But after 9/11, I did. And I was ready to go to war. The world was with us. All the countries of the world that usually are hating America or envious of America or something, they all stand behind us now. And folks, I believe that we may have blown that moment by going to war. We felt good about toppling 2 countries, but today, Afghanistan and Iraq are not any better than they were. And we are back to the world hating us and all that stuff. Remember that all of Congress got together on the steps of the White House or the Capitol somewhere, I think the Capitol, and they sang God Bless America? The word God coming out of all these politicians. And the cynical side of me wants to say that it was all for show, right? But it wasn't. I don't think it was. I think sincerely in their hearts, they wanted to be unified. We had a common enemy. Imagine if we had waged peace instead of war. If we would have spent every penny that we spent on those wars. If we would have spent them on somehow showing the love of Jesus to the nations. It's hard for us to do because we are steeped in sin. And I'm not saying that they were wrong who did it. I'm saying that we were wrong, and I was wrong particularly, because I even preached on going to war. I even preached on vengeance and the innocents in Iraq and all that other stuff, and I repent of it today. Jesus taught us to pray for our enemies, not to destroy them. He taught us to reconcile. He said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Peace is the way Jesus responded to life. And peace is what He's teaching us. Some of you may be angry right now at me for saying this. I know I was angry at a pastor friend of mine, a much older man, who thought we were wrong for going to war after 9/11. Man, I hated that liberal, traitor, something. I didn't understand at all. He said Jesus taught us a better way. And I was confused about that. I knew, the reason I was confused is because I knew what he was saying. But I'm thinking, this isn't a time for Jesus. This is a time for generals. That I was wrong. Peace was the way Jesus would have us respond to the world. Jesus said, "Peace I live with you. My peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Do you know peace in your heart? Do you know peace? Are you ready to face your Maker? Are you happy to face your Maker? You know, that's one of the things that we need to be careful of when we want to face revenge and save our lives, is what are we saving it for? Are you ready to meet the Lord? I'm telling you, if you know Jesus, you will know peace. That peace that passes understanding, that peace will let you understand that God is in control no matter what. No matter who's president, no matter who's king, no matter who or what is troubling you or threatens you. The Apostle Paul said, "To live is Christ, to die is gain." You know Jesus, you will know that peace. We're going to listen to a song right now. Let these words reflect in your heart. There's a communication card in your bulletin. Pull that out and write down as we listen to this song what God is telling you, and you can put it in the plate as you leave today.
Single dream, I lay each one down at your feet. Every moment of my wandering never changes what you see. I've tried to win this war, I confess. My hands are weary, I need your rest. Mighty warrior, king of the fight. No matter what I face, you're by my side. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give me not seen. So in all things be my life and breath. I want what you want, Lord, nothing less. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. You are my strength and comfort. You are my steady hand. You are my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. Your ways are always higher. Your plans are always good. There's not a place where I'll go you've not already stood. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I will trust in you.
I want to invite our prayer team to come up, our altar team. And if you have something you want prayer about this morning, if you want to pray with one of our altar team members, please come forward as we sing this song. Or perhaps you want to know more about having peace through Jesus. Come as we sing.
It's so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take Him at His word, just to rest upon His promise, just to know thus saith the Lord. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I proved Him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. Oh, how sweet to trust in Jesus, just to trust His cleansing blood, just in simple faith to plunge me beneath the healing cleansing flood. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I proved Him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more.
Pray with me. Help us to trust you, Lord. Help us to look to you when the troubles of life surround us, when we need to make hard decisions, when we need to walk closer to you. Lord, help us to be a light to this world. For we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. We're going to sing another verse. If God is leading you, come as we sing.
Yes, 'tis true, I hate to trust in Jesus, just from sin and self to cease, just from Jesus simply taking life and rest, and joy and peace. Jesus,
bless you as you walk out those doors and enter into the mission field.
But they were small. Just clean up to,